Hello and welcome to lesson 3 of week 2. My name is Mildred, and in this lesson we are going to discuss CSS text and font properties. In the last lesson we looked at CSS colors and the various ways that we can apply colors to a text or a background on a page. So the first property we're going to look at today is the color property, which we have discussed in the last lesson. If I want to apply a color to, let's say, the H2 tag, I will use the color property and set the color to using one of the color values. When I save this and I go to my web page, I have the H2 tag in blue. The next property we are going to look at is how to set the horizontal alignment of a text on a page. And the horizontal alignment means the alignment of the text from left to right or right to left. And we use the text align property, and we can center the text, or we can apply the other values to align left, right, or justify the text, or inherit from a parent style. Sometimes we want to change the direction of the text. So instead of going from left to right, we want to go from right to left, and we use the direction property to do that. So I will set the direction of text, and let's do this in the P tag. So let me specify style for the P tag, and I will use direction, and I will set the direction to right to left. So when I save this and I refresh my page, all of my P tag is going from right to left. There is a property used along with the direction property, and it's called the unicodebd. It has a range of value: the BD override, embed, normal, inherit. Refer to your lesson notes to see the different values and try them out and know why or when to use each of the value. If I use BD override, it means that every character on the page is going to change direction from right to left. And this is not the effect we need. The effect we need, or when this is actually useful, is when we have bidirectional text on the page. And this just sets how to handle the bidirectional text on the page. So when we have a page with multiple directions, like left to right and right to left, we can use this property and set the value so that we set the direction. So I'm going to refresh, and we'll find that the texts are all from right to left. So this is not the value I want, so I will set this to, let's say, normal, and we'll let it stay normal. If you want to set the vertical alignment, that's from top to bottom, of elements, we use the vertical align property. We have values like, so let's do vertical align. We use like top, bottom. So the vertical align property takes values like baseline, top, bottom, middle, sub, or text top. And when this is very useful is when we need to align like images that are placed in line with the text on the page. If we want a particular portion to be applied properly in line with the other text on the page, we want to set the vertical alignment of that portion of text. And I'm going to demonstrate this. I'm going to change this to use a class attribute. I'll call this vertical, and let's call this the name, my style, right? And the vertical align, save and refresh, and we have the effect of it align to the bottom. So what I want you to do when you practice is to look at the values that the property take and try out each value. That way you will master what values do what. And when you design your web page, you will know what property holds the value that produces the effects that you want in your design. If I want to apply a line on this page, we have a text decoration property, but we are going to look at the different text decoration properties. We have the text decoration line, we have the text decoration style, and the thickness, the color, and then we have the shorthand text decoration. So we are going to look at them one by one. So let's look at the text decoration property. Text decoration, and I'm going to use the text decoration line. I want to define a line, but I don't want the normal underline or straight line. We use this to indicate the type of line that we want on the page. We have lines like underline, overline. We have things like overline, underline. We have none. We have underline, line through. So let's say I want to underline a text, and I also want to overline that text. So I'm going to use a value, overline, underline, and I'll save this. When I refresh this page, jumps should have a line above and below. And so this is how we apply text decoration line. Now, the default line is usually straight, but I want to change it to be a, let's say, wavy line. I have another property that I can use as text decoration, and I'll put text decoration style, and I want it to be wavy. There are other values this takes. It takes values like solid, double dotted, dashed line, wavy line. So I have wavy lines instead of the straight line. So you can try out the other values to see how they present on the page. I want to select the thickness also. I want this line to be very thick. I use a text decoration thickness. And this property sets the thickness of the line. I want the thickness to be 20%. Save and refresh my page. I have the line thicker. If I want to set the color of the text decoration line, I will use text decoration color. And I'm going to set the text decoration color to one of the color values as we learned. So I want this color to be, let's say, green. Refresh, and I'll have that line in green. If I don't want to go through the pain of writing all of this, I can use the shorthand text decoration property like this and specify everything in one declaration. So I can decide to specify I want it to be overline, underline. I also want to have it dashed. I also want the color red. I want the thickness 20%. I'll save this, refresh my page, and I have everything applied in one declaration. So you can use the text decoration one declaration, or you can use each of the text decoration property to specify the line separately, the style, the color, the thickness, all separately. If I want to control the capitalization of text on the page, I'm going to use the text transform property. So I'll apply this to the P tag, and I'm going to use text transform. And either use capitalize. I use capitalize to capitalize the first letter of each word on the page. When I refresh this, we find the first letter of each word is capitalized. I use uppercase to make everything uppercase, and lowercase to make everything lowercase. We so far have this text on the page, and there is no indentation for this paragraph. I want to indent the first line of this text. We have a property called the text indent property, which sets the indentation of the first line of the text. So let's say I want this 10 px. So there are different units you can use. I'll use this in PX. Refer to your notes to find the values you can use. So you specify custom values and check the unit of measurement that it accepts. And when I refresh my page, the first line is indented. If you want to space the letters in the text, we have a letter spacing property that we can use. So I'm specifying this with 2px, and when I refresh my page, the letters are spaced. If we want to set a space between lines of text, we use the line height property and specify a value. So I'm going to use 5px here, and this should reduce the space between the lines of text. If I use negative values, let's say negative 2px, save and refresh, and this should expand the line. We have a property called the whitespace property, which we use to set how whitespace within elements are handled. And you can set values like normal, no wrap, pre-wrap. So if it's going to overflow within a container, you are going to use the whitespace property. And I'm not going to discuss that because the whitespace property is going to be your assignment. And I want you to research and use this to answer your question. The next property we are going to look at is the text shadow property. And what this does is add shadows to a text, and it takes values for the color, the X offset, the Y offset, the blur radius. And let's say for the H1, I want to put a style to the H1 tag. I want to use the text shadow property, and I want to put a value for the X and Y offset and the blur radius. So let's say 2px, 2px, 1px, and I want the color, let's say red. And I will save, refresh, and I have this with a shadow. So these are the text properties that we are going to use. Refer to your lesson notes to try out values. Also, you can research online to see more text properties and how you use them. But these are the major ones we are going to be using. So let's move to the font properties. We have the font family, and this specifies a list of one or more font names that the text is going to use. And if you go online to research, you will find web safe fonts. So I'm going to use any font that I have at the top of my head for the purpose of this demonstration. I want to have my indentation there, and I want to specify the font family that this text should use. So I want the first font to be Times New Roman. Then I want my next font to be Georgia, and the next serif. Save this. When I refresh my page, it is going to take the fonts I have specified here. So you specify the list of fonts, how you want the appearance to be on the page. There is also a font style property that you use to decide if the font should be normal, it should be italic or oblique. So if I use italic, it's going to italize the text. I'm going to use oblique, and it looks exactly like the italic. When I use the font size property, we set the size of the font. So you can take absolute values like extra small, small, medium, large. You can take extra large, extra large, those kind of values. Or you can use relative sizes like smaller and larger. So relative means it's relative to something else on the page, or another size on the page. It can also take length values like using the px or the em, or you can take mat. So I'm going to use the font size to be 12 px. So there are different units of measurement. Use whatever unit is comfortable for you and understand how the unit size shows up. So if I use 12, it's going to be smaller. So you see how much smaller or larger you want your text size to be. I can change this to large instead. Save this, refresh my page, and it's going to be large. There is something called the font variant property, and all this does is drops your text in small caps, and the value I'm going to use here is either normal small caps. Inherit, I'll use small caps. Save this. Even if my text is in lowercase letter, it's going to use small caps for everything on the page, and so when it's in capital letter or uppercase letter, it's going to be bigger, but the ones in lowercase will be in small caps but smaller than the uppercase letters. We have the next one, which is the font weight. We use this font weight to set the boldness of the font. So you can take values like 100, 200, 300 up until 900, or you can take absolute values or relative values like normal and bold, or you can take values like lighter and bolder. 100. I'm going to save. I'm going to refresh my page, and it's going to be thicker. So instead of using all of these font properties, I can use the shorthand of font and specify everything I need in one declaration. Like I want the size to be 0.8 em. I want the font family to be serif, Georgia. I think this is uppercase. Then I also want the font variant to be small caps. I want it to be bold, and I want to be 12px. So I'm going to save this, and I'll refresh my page, and I have all of my properties in one declaration. So this is where we end this lesson, and this is the end of week 2. Thank you, and see you in week 3.